A 37-year-old woman was shot and killed by an ICE agent in Minneapolis on Wednesday. Here's how it unfolded. CNN reviewed video of 3 angles of the shooting. The woman first can be seen in her car waving her hand out the window as 2 federal officers in a truck pull up. They then begin to approach the woman on the driver's side, telling her to get out of the car. At the same time this interaction is unfolding, a third officer, who would soon shoot the driver, can be seen walking from the opposite side of the vehicle. That officer draws his pistol as the car first reverses and then begins to move forward. He then fires multiple shots. Another angle seems to show the car making contact with the officer before he fired his gun. The car then accelerates and crashes into a nearby parked car. After the shooting, neighbors asked to administer aid, shouting at the federal agents.
We have our own medics.
Where are they? Where are they? How can I relax? You just killed my neighbor.
Let's put this video under the microscope and walk through it. And I can tell you, I've watched this over 24 times right now. The focal point is going to be the front left fender of that vehicle and the agent that is then beyond it who decides to open fire. Now, the way agents are trained, first of all, and the police chief alluded to this in the press conference, is that they're not permitted to fire into a moving vehicle solely for the purpose of disabling the vehicle. When you look at that video, you can actually see that vehicle making contact, the front left of that vehicle, with the ICE agent who is there. But again, it'll come down to a matter of question. Could that agent have moved out of the way? They're not required to retreat. There's no duty to retreat when facing someone who may be potentially violent. Now, there's another thing to point out too, and that's the angle that we see from the bystander, is that it appears just before the shots are fired, the front wheels on that vehicle turn to the right. That's an indication, obviously, to us from that vantage point that the driver is about to move out of that location toward the right. That's why this is such a powder keg, because there are essentially 2 aspects of this. There's the policy, the law, what agents are allowed to do, and there's an issue of judgment. Just because you can do something, should you? That is why we're going to continue to see this outrage, because that agent's decision to pull his weapon, if he indeed found himself in a situation where he's in fear for his life, caused the death of a local resident there.
As soon as that perimeter collapsed, Boris, what we really saw was people begin to condense onto the law enforcement vehicles, and they were throwing snowballs at them. Did you see that? Can you see that they're throwing, it looks like snowballs or maybe chunks of ice at the vehicles? People here are really angry. And right now, because the Minneapolis Police Department is among the law enforcement still on the ground, that anger is singularly directed toward the Minneapolis Police Department. And that highlights the real challenge for law enforcement in cities where ICE is descending on this area and causing these flare-ups between the public and law enforcement. Minneapolis police were not involved in the shooting, and yet they are here taking the heat that people feel because of what they saw ICE do here in Minneapolis.
President Donald Trump weighed in on the fatal shooting of a woman by an ICE agent in Minneapolis. In a post on social media blaming who he called the radical left, Trump backed authorities' version of events, saying, "The woman driving the car was very disorderly, obstructing and resisting, who then violently, willfully, and viciously ran over the ICE officer who seems to have shot her in self-defense." Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem also defended the ICE agent by claiming the woman tried to run the agent over with her vehicle. Multiple witnesses at the scene tell CNN the woman was not acting aggressively prior to the shooting.
Right, nice and big, right? So it's meant to be legible, right?
Yeah.
That's right! We want